added Flynn Hall, it was a great opportunity for middle schoolers to just have more access to learning how to utilize a weight room. They never went to the weight room before Flynn Hall opened, and now with a really good weight room, they incorporate that into their gym classes. And that's such a great opportunity for the kids to learn different kinds of training. So that was good. It has more gym space, so that right now we have so many different gym classes going on at the same time. They all have an area that they can use, which is really nice. It also, the art wing over there really made a difference. There's a drawing room, there's also the ceramics room, there's a computer graphics room. That just opened up a whole different amount of art classes and types of art classes. And then it opened and made a larger music wing as well, so we were able to do additional choir classes. We opened up a class that's not just choir, but they learn to use boom whackers, they can learn to use the African drums, they can take guitar lessons. So it just expanded that whole fine arts program for middle schoolers, but for all of the school.
Well, the middle school formation was always, it used to be just sort of casual, a meeting or whatever. But when the boys were asked to go to the high school for formation, that they knew they had to be on. When we got the Rongish Commons downstairs, that's when our formations downstairs got more formal for them in the middle school, about the year 2000. And then when Mr. Jurkovich brought in the house model, and then every house has a house captain, now they're very formal. And it's a regulated schedule. So we have middle school formation, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday and Thursday we're with the high schoolers. They do everything that's done at the high school formation, only it's done in our little Rongish Commons downstairs.
So for me, when I saw the house program come on, Mr. Jurkovich is the one who created it. He did an excellent job. I think what it did is bring the 7th and 8th grade at that time, and then eventually the 6th grade, and brought them in together to really learn from each other, respect each other. When we have like a homecoming event, all 3 grades will play together on a dodgeball team.
I think the idea for the St. Thomas Academy Middle School house system came from my daughter's experience at Viz. So I copied that, adopted that. Harry Potter was popular at the time, with Gryffindor and the different houses and that kind of thing. So slight inspiration for that, to give them a name. And just looking for a way to, make a small medium school even more intimate and accountable. Also, so that it wasn't just the 8th graders versus the 7th graders. There's a way to mix them, and now it's to mix the 8th, 7th, and 6th graders, that they have some crossover. And we create a big brother, little brother scenario within that. The new kids are matched up with an older kid. And they do things, mixed together. And then it allowed us to do it in a number of things with character development and education and service and the homecoming week activities. And now we do contests with it as well, tie-tying contest and singing the fight song contest. We do a BFI version for the middle school where they do a uniform inspection. So it's allowed us to have 6, divide the middle school by 6, whatever the number is. So we have 120 boys in the middle school, divided by 6, there's 20 in each house. And then to give us that small subgrouping. And also allowed us to do leadership. So there's 1 house captain elected out of each house. So there's 6 house captains, and that's a student council. Electing a president, vice president, treasurer, that meant nothing. We didn't really have a job for them. It also helps us to model kind of what they do in the high school. So at middle school formation, they sit by their house like a company, and their house captain sits in front of them, and they're kind of in charge of them. And then they're basically my student council. We meet weekly, talk about what's going on, what's coming up, how they can help, give me feedback. It has worked nicely for leadership opportunities and just fun activities for the kids.
That had a huge impact. I think before the Innovation Center, we all knew about the experimental vehicle team and how successful they were, but they worked out in a garage. We didn't really see them working on their vehicles, anything like that.
They did amazing things out of like out of a garage down the hill and out of a basically a janitor's closet down in the Garberg wing, and they needed and deserved a better space.
Once the Innovation Center started, not only did it open us up to be able to see the experimental vehicle team working, But all of a sudden, it was like this whole new world of opportunities for hands-on learning, and the kids loved it. The students loved going out there and making all different kinds of 3D printout. They liked doing the movies. It brought out like a whole aspect that was completely missing.
To stay cutting edge, to stay relevant, to be able to appeal to as many students as possible, to give them the best possible education we can. All those things, combined. And there's grant money available, and so it just combined to say this could be a really cool thing. We've got a place and a space, and that was a good use of that space, which was underutilized.
And every year they add more and more opportunities for kids to come in and work in the Innovation Center. In fact, last year they got to eat in there because of COVID. So they really were in there a lot.
The sixth grade genesis started with Viz approaching us. They were interested in going to an all-female middle school. Initially they got cold feet actually on the idea, but by the time they got cold feet on the idea, we had warmed up to the idea and we moved forward with the idea. And we basically had a plane that was flying that had room on it. So we didn't have to hire new teachers, we didn't have to build new space. We could add a grade, add boys, right? And add that enrollment and all the benefits of that without having to increase our costs of adding teachers or adding classrooms. We had space in the building to accommodate adding sixth grade boys. So I also knew, though, that it's not quite that simple. Sixth grade boys are quite a bit younger than seventh and certainly eighth grade boys. So you had to hire eventually, as people retired, people who knew how to teach and handle sixth graders. We had to add more orientations for the sixth graders. They need a different touch. They're really young compared to the seventh and eighth graders. It's not, a linear change. It's, it scopes up pretty fast in terms of the maturities.
I loved it in the sixth graders. It is, they're young, and it was so different. I always love to tell the story. One time a sixth grader came up to me and his locker was stuck, and that's very common. Kids' lockers get stuck all the time, so I'm always opening them. I opened up and all these little teeny Beanie Babies and stuffed animals fell out. And I was like, oh, he was so shy about it. He's like, oh, I'd just like to bring this to school with me. I'm like, that is great. So it was really fun to have the energy of a little bit younger and just, they don't just try to fit in with everybody else. They're still very trying to be unique and embracing where they're at in life right then. And I think that was such a good thing for the eighth graders to see, to kind of see it's okay to be silly at times. It's okay to bring a Beanie Baby in your locker. And that was really fun for, I think, everybody to have around that energy level and that excitement about learning. And I think it was a great transition for the sixth graders that to move into seventh and move into eighth. I think it really completes the middle school. Yes, so absolutely there was. For technology, when the kids first started, or when I first started in the middle school, there was no technology at all. We just use it. And then eventually iPads were added in. Kids were so excited to get iPads and have them at school. And that was a whole learning experience, not only how to use them in the classrooms and how to use them for expanding their learning, but also just how to be responsible, how to be on their iPads, to learn from their technology, and also be able to have the self-discipline to not be swiping over to a game.
I mean, look, we never would have been able to do, during COVID, that quarter when we were home, the spring a year ago, never would have been able to do that because you wouldn't have been able to push out assignments or accept assignments. All the Zoom technology, everyone having their own computer, just would not have been possible. It just would have been a cancel. I don't know what would have. It would have been interesting to see if that had happened 25 years ago, how it would have been managed. Would people have picked up some work? Would have just called it off? I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, but it absolutely has changed the way people teach.